Well, hi everyone, and welcome to our third W Media Tech Talk with Open Compute Project Foundation. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to join me as we take a look inside an OCP optimized data center in Southeast Asia. OCP's collaborative community strives to optimize all parts of a data center, from open hardware designs to network architecture to providing efficient and scalable computing. Today, we'll find out what it takes to achieve one of OCP's newest certifications, the OCP Ready Facility Recognition Program. My name's Stuart, and I'm the editor at W Media. I produce the latest news and market insights on a broad spectrum of technology topics on W Media's news site. Optimized data centers with open infrastructures are becoming ever more crucial to meet increasing demands of cloud service providers, telcos, and enterprises in the digital age. So I'm really excited about how you can optimize your data centers in Southeast Asia, where unique climates and geographies all play a part in determining how data centers operate. And we'd love to hear from you. So please send in your questions or opinions at any time during the event by selecting the question mark icon in the GoToWebinar window. So joining us today, we have OCP's VP of Channel, Steve Helvie. Steve educates organizations on the benefits of community-driven open hardware designs for data centers. And we're also joined by Rasul and Alton Kilic from Rittal, an OCP Platinum member who specializes in developing and influencing the future of OCP roadmaps in rack, cooling, and power. And then finally, we have Darren Hawkins, the CEO and founder of SpaceDC. They're the first company in Southeast Asia that the Singapore Sovereign Wealth Fund, GIC, has chosen to invest in and develop data centers with. And on the agenda today, Steve will show us why tech giants and data center players have joined OCP community to develop OCP optimized hardware, the hardware market, into a $10 billion industry. Rasul will then take us through the importance of open hardware and open rack infrastructure in achieving an optimized and efficient data center. And then after that, Darren Hawkins will share with us how SpaceDC achieved the recognition of being the first OCP ready data center in all of Asia, after meeting all guidelines and successfully passing the OCP Ready Colo site assessment test. And you can download more information from SpaceDC at any time during our show by selecting the handouts icon in the GoToWebinar window or tapping the paper icon on your phone. So without further ado, here's Steve from OCP to share more about their optimized solutions. Take it away, Steve.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for attending today. As Stuart mentioned, this is our third webinar with W Media covering different topics of open compute. And for those of you who may not have attended the first two sessions, OCP is an open source hardware organization founded by Facebook in 2011. With the help of Microsoft and Goldman Sachs, Intel, and Rackspace. And just last month, we announced that Google is now a board member of the Open Compute Project. It's a project that's made up of over 150 companies. You can see those companies on our membership directory on our main site, made up of various projects where volunteers really work across the data center to solve common problems. And we're pretty excited today to focus a lot on the OCP Ready Facilities Program, which is something new within the last year, and with SpaceDC becoming the first in APAC to achieve this certification. We have 15 to 20 different projects. I encourage you to go on to the Open Compute website, review the types of projects and the types of contributions that our companies are contributing. It's really impressive. Everything from the networking all the way down to telco and edge. There's some really impressive areas that the teams are working to solve various problems in the data center. I think these two, with rack and power and the data center, go pretty well together on today's topic because there are a few things that are happening within the market. We are certainly seeing an increase in the density per rack. And this is pretty indicative of the types of workloads that people are starting to run, whether it be a tier 2 cloud service provider, a telco, even public sector are starting to ask more about the types of GPUs they may be able to run, the type of storage solutions, all increasing the density per rack. And this creates some issues around the types of facilities where these racks may be deployed. And as people start to deploy this new type of hardware, there are other areas that become less efficient around the power available to the rack, the type of floor bearing that you may need. In fact, with open compute racks, you don't necessarily need raised floors. Things run at a higher temperature. Everything is front IO accessible on the open compute rack. All of these different areas come into play when you're dealing with open compute style of hardware. Additionally, you have certain limitations on deployment of full rack architectures. This is an actual example of an OCP rack trying to be deployed in a European city. And as you can tell, a lot of these older facilities aren't necessarily designed to handle fully loaded and fully equipped racks to, say, a central office in a telco in a European city. So with all of these things happening in the market and all the feedback that we received about, well, if I'm interested in deploying open compute hardware, what does my facility need to look like in order to handle the new style of hardware that people are deploying? So the Data Center Facilities Group, along with the Rack and Power Group and input from them, developed a set of guidelines around DC access, the white space, the cooling, electrical systems, telecom, and pathways. And it really outlines a site assessment where a data center operator can take this assessment and walk through their facility and say, yeah, we're ready to handle open compute racks and infrastructure, and we understand it and we can support it. And this is a pretty important certification that we have as we see the growth in certain sectors and in certain regions. End customers are looking for those facilities that understand open compute and can rely on local support at that facility and know that they can grow in that facility. So aside from SpaceDC, we'll talk a little bit today about the rack, and I encourage you, after this session, we will be distributing the deck, and I encourage you to take a look at this YouTube video. It's about 15 minutes, and it's one of the best that we've seen that goes into detail about what is actually inside an open compute rack and what makes it different than a normal rack. And I highly encourage you to take a look at that. Again, it's about 15 minutes, but very, very well done from the team at Facebook. Rasul will talk here in just a minute about Open Rack version 3. Now, we are now on our third version of the Open Compute Rack. This will be the most comprehensive and what we call a converged rack architecture, as a lot of the members come together to work on the next version. So the first version was primarily Facebook driven. Now as we work into version 3, we have other companies, Google, Facebook, Microsoft, large enterprise, telcos, all providing input into the next version of the rack to cover some of these points I mentioned earlier around the density and the new wave of architecture. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rasul. Now, Rasul's session here is recorded and based on some time zone constraints that we've had in the past. Rasul was kind enough to record his presentation. So for any questions and answers, I'm happy to take those and relay those back to Rasul at the end of the session and then get you an answer for that. But Rasul is with Rittal, and Rittal has been a great OCP member for many years, and they've been really the leaders when it comes to the rack architectures that we have and the contributions they've made into open compute. So with that, Stuart, I will turn it over to you to launch Rasul's presentation.
Yeah, thanks, Steve, for your presentation. Now I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Rittal. I'm working for Rittal, project management for global IT key accounts. I would like to show you or introduce you the company, our technology, our offering in products and solutions, and also give you an example of how to use the OCP technology and why to use the OCP technology. Now I would like to give you more information about Rittal, the company. I mean, when you heard Rittal, you are thinking about IT cabinets. Yeah, that's the case, but Rittal is also a solution provider with the whole package: IT, rack, cooling, and also power for your IT infrastructure. The company was founded in 1961 in Germany. It's a 100% family-owned business. Rittal has over 10,000 employees worldwide, sitting in 58 subsidiaries all over the world and 11 production sites in Germany, in Italy, India, US, and also in the UK, and also in China, of course. Here on the map you can see our 11 production sites. I mean, in the first step you can see we are really close to our customers in every region. For instance, in USA, South America, UK, European area, and also in China. I mean, just from the numbers, what our facilities are able to produce. For instance, we are producing 15,000 enclosures each day for the IT and also for the industrial business, from smaller units to bigger units. It's possible. And also regarding the cooling units are getting produced in Italy and also in our German manufacturing line in Hof. We're producing 200,000 cooling units a year. I mean, coming to the main purpose of this webinar, why open hardware, why OCP technology? Rittal is involved in the OCP community since 2012. We are now platinum member with one chairman sitting in the Rack and Power group, and also we are from the headquarters are heavily involved in the OCP Foundation, joining into the ARI Summit and also leading the engineering session during every OCP summit or regional summit. But coming back to the OCP, I mean, why this has been created. The data volumes are increasing exponentially, and for successful business you will need efficient and fast data processing. This is a request for the future, and the current existing traditional IT hardware, hardgear, can of course handle that, but we need to be efficient, as mentioned before. And now OCP comes into the game. The main objective, the main goal of the OCP community is reducing investment and operation cost, reduce energy consumption, and absolutely most important of that is sharing ideas and know-hows into the working streams, in the working groups who are sitting together on a table with your competitor, with your partner, with the end customer, and sharing your ideas and know-how in terms of hardware, cooling, software in the specific working group. I mean, the main question, why open hardware, why I should change my existing IT infrastructure and use the OCP technology. This was a question what we asked to our customers, to our partners, and here we can see the results. I mean, the main reason was cost reduction, power efficiency, and standardization. All these stuff, all these cost reductions and power efficiency are coming with the standardization. When you use one specification and you have, let's say, the flexibility to buy the same rack under the same specification everywhere, it is a standardization, or even the hardware is the same. And also the power efficiency, you don't have the transition from AC to DC again. You have a 12 volt DC busbar in the back or the 48 volt busbar in the back. And also the topic reliability and enhanced security was also coming up in our survey. As mentioned a couple minutes ago, Rittal is an OCP member since 2012, and since 2018 Rittal is a platinum member. The membership enables to actively participate on events, develop OCP products, and influence the future of OCP roadmap in rack, cooling and power to bring those kind of cost reductions and power savings. We are actively contributing specifications into the rack and power group and also into the cooling group, and mentioned before, participating into the OCP summits in US and also in Europe, leading workshops, showing presentations and panel discussions during the show. To show you the timeline of the Open Rack infrastructure from Rittal and our experience, we started the journey in 2012. 1 year later, we finalized in the working streams what is really important and really effective to develop such kind of product. 1 year later, and 1 year later again, Rittal started the production of the Open Rack version 1 and became a lead developer. And now we showed the first prototype of the Open Rack version 3 during the OCP Regional Summit in Amsterdam. As mentioned, this work can just be done really efficient into the working streams. So I would like to call for action that everybody who is interested in energy saving, power consumption and efficient work to join that groups and contribute actively. To give you more updates regarding the Open Rack version 3, what is a still ongoing development into the working group Rack and Power. Here, let's say some details on a few. The new OCP V3 will have a 48 volt DC busbar in the back. The first V2 had a 12 volt DC and also of course 48, but this one will just have the 48 volt DC busbar in the back. The power shelf can be positioned in any rack position. From the previous one, this was not possible. The toolless rack rails are also new. This rack are not only supporting OU, it is also supporting the RU, the regular U for your other equipment. And also you can move the frame, the horizontal frame support, what was also not possible in the Open Rack version 2. There you can see this is, let's say, the result of the working stream, of the working group, where everybody is working together in a collaboration to get the best result out of that. Just for reference regarding the bus bars, as I mentioned, the 12 volt DC and 40 volt DC bus bars are still getting used in the Open Rack version 2 racks. The 12 volt bus bar won't be available for the Open Rack version 3 rack anymore, but still supporting the Open Rack version 2. During the beginning of our presentation, I mentioned that Rittal is not just the rack supplier. Rittal is a solution provider in terms of rack, power and cooling, also the same in the OCP community. We are contributing not only for racks, we are doing that also for cooling. Rittal has now developed with the partner company Zutacor a two-phase direct contact liquid cooling. It's a closing loop working with low pressure, and the cooling is on demand. I am highly recommending that you are looking the latest video, or let's say the latest presentation what we showed during the OCP Virtual Summit. And also we are partnering with the partner company Bell Power from Switzerland, and they are producing or let's say providing power components for the OCP racks and technology like PDU, power supply units and power shelves, what you can see on the picture on the lower area. Thanks for joining today and stay healthy.
Well, I'd like to say thank you to Rittal from Rittal for sharing how important Open Rack infrastructures are to achieving an OCP optimized data center. So now I'm excited to hand over to Darren from SpaceDC to share their success of being the first OCP ready data center in Asia, as well as their plans for the future. So I'll hand it over to Darren.
Thank you very much. Welcome everybody. Thanks to all of you for attending. From what I can tell, we've got people joining us from all over Asia Pacific and parts of the world. So I appreciate if it's a different time zone for you that you've made the effort to dial in. So what I'd like to do today is to take you through our journey with Open Compute. Certainly when, oh, sorry. What have I done? No, this is fine. My bad, sorry, apologies, people. Our business is set up to develop data centers across Southeast Asia with very much a focus on high efficiency modern data center that meet modern data center demands from groups like hyperscale providers and corporates. We very much want to focus on being flexible, modular, very much about reliability and scalability with a focus on sustainability and efficiency. So we're currently developing our campus in Indonesia, which I'll talk a bit about today. The Indonesian campus, when fully developed, will have 25 odd megawatts of IT capacity available. It's located in West Jakarta, Jakarta Barat, and is conveniently located between the airport and the CBD. We chose this location because of its convenience in terms of access. It's got a lot of rich fiber connections, and it's got access to great utilities such as power, water and gas and things like that. So at the moment we've got two projects going on. I'll briefly give an overview of our Jack 1 facility. This is the big one. We're about to start constructing this in the next month, and will come online in September, October next year. But in the meantime, we're just completing this facility, Jack 2 as we call it, and this facility is the one that is OCP ready. Certainly each campus that we do and each data center that we do around Southeast Asia, we will be targeting to be OCP ready. It's part of our mission to support modern computing around the world. So at an overview, the two sites as you see here, Jack 2 is 1.4 megawatts, and it's designed for co-location and wholesale users. And then Jack 1, when it comes online, will be much more for hyperscale and wholesale type customers. So when it came to the OCP assessment, we sat down with OCP and went through their assessment criteria. We read a lot of their documents and very much answered a lot of their questions. The assessment tool was very user-friendly in terms of it was you're able to very much see what the Open Compute guys are looking for in terms of a data center and the facilities that it has, and what actually you're saying is what end customers are looking for when they look to deploy modern compute technology. So some of the questions that we answered here on this page, once you've done this assessment, of course, you need to present your facility and it goes to a panel, and then you're hopefully accepted, as we were, to be an Open Compute facility. So a little bit about the facility, I'll take you through now just to explain some of its features. So you can see the facility in the middle of the picture here as it relates to the big project that we're about to start constructing. It's very much designed to support modern compute requirements. So it's capable of a maximum density of 15 kilowatts per rack, and can go higher than that. Indeed, we're talking to customers where their requirement is for a 20 kilowatt average. We can support that with some supplemental cooling. We very much have a flexible building architecture that allows us to increase the capacity of the hall if needed. We can accommodate different rack sizes, and a higher rack on the Jack 1 facility. When it comes online, it'll be able to accommodate even higher racks still. in terms of the number of U's in the rack. Of course, we're carrier neutral. We have meet me rooms. We have all of our doors, for example, are sized at the right height so that you can take these racks, higher racks, through the facility. So it's a smoothless transition. So when I look back at the presentation we've seen today from the guys, particularly Steve, we won't have that sideways rack entry requirement on our facility. We very much be able to deliver it on a truck, off the truck, and then straight into the data hall if it's a pre-configured rack. If it's not a pre-configured rack, we can certainly accommodate it inside the build and test rooms that we have. So we have obviously all the modern facilities that you expect to see in the data center. So network operations center. We have obviously 8 layers of security access into the facility. So very much everyone is pre-registered when they come in. Our data hall is a concrete floor data hall. There is no raised floor. And we will be using fan wall technology. We're currently deploying the Vertiv solution into the data hall, and that's proving excellent in terms of facilitating modern rack standards like the Open Compute rack. So very much we have a hot aisle containment approach to our data halls. So we pressurize the data hall and force the cool air through the rack and into a hot aisle that's then circulated back to the fan wall corridor, and it's deployed in an N+2 arrangement. So we also use bus bars throughout our data centers. So this combined with some other approaches means that you can configure the racks to higher densities because you can accommodate more tap-offs that are needed, and you can configure where they need to be. So if a rack has a slightly different configuration, we can support that with our bus bar takeoffs. And then when you couple the fact that we're using bus bar and we're using fan walls, what we've actually done is remove the need for people to come inside the data hall to maintain it. So there's no requirement for any maintenance people to enter into the data center to do any of the planned maintenance for our electrical or mechanical services. Those will all be undertaken outside of the data hall in the fan wall corridor or in the UPS rooms. Our facility also has a number of breakout spaces. These breakout spaces will be for customers to relax while they're perhaps waiting for hardware upgrades or software upgrades to take place. We all live in a global world, and sometimes patches take a long time to come through. So we very much will, accommodate people as they need to be there on site for their work. The security that we have is 24/7, of course, and for some customers, we'll provide them with card key access, so it'll be smooth and seamless. Sorry. We have a integrated CCTV and 24/7 NOC monitoring. We also have a remote NOC here in Singapore that will monitor the systems in the site in Jakarta. We have an integrated critical systems monitoring system, which to us provides an overview of the BMS SCADA and other items in the data center. So we can have a dashboard view of how the data center is performing at any time. Our fire protection is a pre-action dry type double knock with VESTA. So we do have some water mist systems for the generators in their enclosures. When we look at the power supply, so we've got 20 kV mains coming into the data center. We have N+N diesel backup with 36 hours of full load. We have isolated fuel storage tanks to provide extra resilience in case of fuel infections. Our UPS is also N+N. It's a distributed redundant topology that we're using, and the UPSs have 5-minute backup at full load. On the mechanical UPS, we also provide N+N, so we've got continuous cooling in our facility, which we think is one of the important things in modern computing, especially when you get to these higher density racks. Continuous cooling is almost essential, certainly preferred. From a power distribution, as I've mentioned, we use bus bars and takeoff box, and they have meters, so customers get really good information about their consumption in the data hall. From a cooling perspective, we have N+N high efficiency electric chillers. The smart chillers are the chillers that we're using, awesome technology. And then we're using chilled water reticulated through for the fan wall technology. We're using Vertiv thermal walls on this particular installation, and it's all tier 3 concurrently maintainable with the chilled water ring main that we deployed. And as I mentioned before, we have the N+N UPS for the MEC load. Our data centers also, we have N+2 on our fan walls, which gives that extra resilience and extra comfort to our customers, knowing that you know, we can support them throughout any events. And then our data hall is designed to accommodate the latest ASHRAE expanded recommended range. So we do embrace running things hotter and more efficient. I think it's certainly something we would encourage our customers to look at. For those of you that might not be aware of how fan walls work, is a really simple diagram that explains how the air is delivered into the data hall with the blue arrows, and then it goes through the racks, really pressure forced through the racks up into the return air plenum, which comes back and circulates through the fan walls. So you can see that they're much bigger units than a crack is, and the fans and the coil is much larger. So consequently, there's less pressure on the air going through. So the fans can be more efficient, which gives you overall, from our perspective, this is a more efficient solution for our customers in terms of delivering cool into the space. Obviously, we don't have a raised floor, so that means that we have a lot more flexibility as well in terms of the rack density and the rack location. We're not confined to a 600 by 600 grid. So the OCP partnership for us has been very successful to date. We're very excited about the future. We're glad and to receive the recognition from these guys, because it's in a lot of ways what our business has been designed to do, which is to create a modern architecture, modern data center architecture for our customers. So we're very much focused on providing a platform for our customers to grow their businesses across East Asia, and in this particular instance in Jakarta. So thank you very much. That's my presentation for today. Perhaps I'll hand back over.
Great, thank you so much, Darren. And now, before we get into the Q&A, I'd just like to say a big thank you to everyone joining, and a big thank you to Darren for sharing the future of SpaceDC, and congratulations again for succeeding in the OCP Ready assessment. So we hope you've enjoyed today's show, and I'd like to just hand over to Steve now, just to tell you a little bit more about how you can find out more about the OCP project.
Yeah, and thanks again to the team at SpaceDC. I just want to comment on how important this certification is to our customers. And we've had large web scale type of companies, large enterprises, even small enterprises start to ask these questions about, well, what facilities do you recommend for us to deploy open compute racks? Because they are a little bit, they can be more dense. They certainly can come fully loaded. They want a smooth deployment. They don't need raised floors. This type of advanced technology is pretty important to some of these people that are starting to deploy at scale. And so having a facility like this in Southeast Asia is really, really important to our members and to those enterprises looking to adopt open compute. So it's a great addition to the OCP ecosystem, and it's a testament to the amount of effort that the team at SpaceDC has done. You can actually look at their entire assessment on our OCP marketplace, including pictures again and details of their facility. Also, Stuart, on the you can click to the next slide. Great. There are just a couple contact information here in case you do want to reach out for the hardware that goes inside of the data center. CTC is a solution provider that's based also in Indonesia and Singapore. They have a pretty strong office and work with our OCP solution providers and ODMs. Same way with Open Computing in Singapore, and EdgeCore Networks is one of our largest open networking providers. And then of course here is Rittal's local contact information in Singapore that can cover all of ASEAN. Just a few links here, as you have a couple also in my presentation earlier, but here's all the links relative to Open Compute for future reference. And Stuart, that is it. I will turn it back to you.
Thanks, Steve. And I hope you've really enjoyed today's show. And if you want more from us, why not follow us on LinkedIn and Facebook, or our website at w.media for the latest technology stories, market insights, and digital events. And remember, if you want more information from SpaceDC, you can download their handouts now in the GoToWebinar system. And before we jump into the Q&A, we've got a few questions. I hope you can join us for our next W Media event on the 23rd of July, where we'll explore the best methods to choose a data center suited to your needs and seamlessly migrate your data. So now it's time to put your questions to our experts. So, apologies, I hope my screen is visible. Okay, so we have a question here from about Jack 1 and Jack 2 facilities, and I believe this has been raised in your presentation, but it's has Jack 1 and Jack 2 begun their construction? And this is obviously a question for Darren.
Yeah, thanks, Stuart. So the Jack 2 facility is a revitalisation project, and that's due to be completed in the next 6 to 8 weeks. So it's nearly done. We are busily finishing the facility now. It's due to come online early September. And then the Jack 1 project, which is the large project you saw, will start construction around that same time and will be completed in around September, October in 2021. So from our perspective, we'll finish one building and start constructing the next. That answers the question.
Perfect, thank you, Darren. And yeah, I believe it's the first green data center campus as well in Indonesia, so that's really exciting. And second question is on the OCP assessment and what it entailed. So what was the process in a little bit of detail, and was there a need to engage with external consultants for this process? I guess that's to both Steve and Darren there.
Yeah, sure. I'll maybe, Steve, I can have a go, and you can supplement my answer. The process for us was relatively straightforward. We have quite a few technical people in-house, as you would expect, being a data center company. So we were able to handle all of the questions and the entire process ourselves. And where we did have any queries, to be honest, Steve and the OCP team were extremely helpful. And made any problems go away relatively quickly. I genuinely was surprised, pleasantly surprised at how supportive the guys were. I was, you know, really happy with the outcome of the process for OCP. For us, it's very much the start of a long relationship, and so far it's been really fruitful. And there's never really things you have to do that you don't see value for. You can certainly see all the things you're doing and the value it adds both to your business and for customers looking to utilize OCP technology.
Yeah, and Yeah, I would encourage anyone to just go on to the Open Compute website or drop me an email at steve@opencompute.org, and you can see the site assessment that Darren and the team at SpaceDC filled out. Again, we're an open organization, so the facility assessment is online, and you will see the exact questions. It's not designed where you would need outside consultants. The idea of having an open community is we have an entire data centers facilities project. We have dedicated team members that help with this exact assessment. So there should be no need for outside consultants. This is an open source based organization to help people through this.
Great, thanks, Steve. And I guess we've got time for one more question. We have had a few about Jack 1 and Jack 2 facilities, so we'll send them over to the SpaceDC team as well, and we'll also provide some more information on that too. But the final question is the move to ever higher density computing will probably exceed the capabilities of air-based cooling at some point in the future. It will require a switch over to liquid-based cooling. So with Jack 1 and Jack 2, what is the maximum floor loading for these facilities? And that's to Darren.
Yeah, sure. So the density of the rack in terms of weight, we've got 20 kPa slabs, so they can certainly take a lot more load. And our design is slab on ground, so it's founded by the soil, so it's not a suspended slab, so it's actually very strong. In terms of the density of the rack and air cooled, we also on our chilled water system have allowed for takeoffs from the chilled water supply, so we are able to do in-row cooling or rear door cooling or a number of other technologies to supplement the rack density on the floor. And we've already been in discussions with some customers about doing that. As I mentioned, we've got people talking to us about wanting to do 20 kilowatt average rack deployments in our data hall. And that's something that we're designed to cater to from day one.
Thanks, Darren. And yeah, I think there's a lot of interest in the facilities, so we'll be sure to get those questions answered for you. And so that concludes today's webinar. So thank you for joining us, and it's a fantastic way to end our third and final tech talk for this series with OCP. So I'd like to just send a final big thank you to the OCP team and for Steve for sharing your fantastic insights on open hardware, open networking, and today's session on optimized data centers. And you can watch any of these on demand at our website, w.media/on-demand. And we'll also email you the recorded version of this event to share with your friends and colleagues. And you can follow OCP and W Media at our websites or on social media for more new and upcoming events, and also on SpaceDC for updates on their 2 data centers coming up. And if you're looking to connect with our vast network, we can help build your presence with digital marketing, event sponsorship opportunities, and collaborative partnerships, just like this one with OCP. So do get in touch with W Media and the team if you'd like more information on these opportunities. So all that's left to say is thank you for joining us. I'd be really excited to hear how you will benefit from OCP optimized data centers. And who knows, I might even write an article on it. So take care, everyone. Be safe. And so long. This concludes today's webinar.
Thank you.